Tom Decker, as always, it's great to see you. How are you?
I am doing great. How about yourself?
I am living the dream. You and I are friends, but it didn't start off that way. We started off um, in business. I met you at a home and garden show outside of Houston, Texas, and we started doing projects together like radio and saw your business grow. And I just want to thank you for allowing me to be part of your ride. It's been fun.
Yeah, no, it was great. I would think the first time I met you, a couple of times, we have a trade show, home show, and you came by a couple of times. And I think I kind of just, I was busy, like I got it all figured out, kind of blew you off. Then you're like, wait a minute, come back again. You came back like the next spring or whatever, and you're like, I got this idea. And then we started doing some radio things together, and so you were right. So I think sometimes people they don't know what's good for them, and I don't. Maybe at that point I didn't know what was good for me, and then we started doing some things. And one of the biggest things we started doing that radio, remember we did one show and you're like, hey, you want to do another show? And you have a contract. I'm like, okay, what's the
Yeah.
worst could happen?
Yeah.
Next thing I know, we're doing 8 hours of radio a week. It's like 8 hours. I'm spending a fortune, but man, the business blew up. So sometimes we don't know how good something can be until we kind of do it. But you had that background more in the radio lead generating, that kind of thing. And that was not my forte. Still really
Yeah.
not my forte. I feel like my forte is probably more like in-home sales. I'm good at running the distribution models and things, great at in-home sales with customers. I'm good with people, but you're good at more at kind of structuring things. And I think seeing a vision for people. So maybe you can speak on that a little bit, like how you see a contractor, you kind of see where they're at. And I think sometimes they don't see where they could go or what they should be doing to get to where they want to go. So sometimes we got to maybe figure out where we're going with this whole thing.
Yeah. Well, so most home service professionals, contractors, do what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
Okay. So they use the same wrenches, they use the same supply houses, they use Google, they wrap their van, they maybe buy radio commercials, TV spots, whatever it is, magazine ads, right? They all do the same thing. But I like to poke them a little bit and I say, okay, if you're doing what all the other HVAC companies are doing as an air conditioning heating company, what sets you apart? Why am I as a homeowner going to choose you over your competition if there's no difference? It might be a little difference in price, but you have the same product, you have the same tools, you have the same licenses with the state, you should be insured. So what's the big difference? So I tell people that you should do something that makes you stand out. So you and I used to do radio, tripled your business in 1 year, which was exciting. And I recommend that to anybody. But a lot of people say, hey, look, I don't want to do radio. Radio is kind of expensive. I get it. And it's a long form radio show. We were doing an hour-long show, and you and I used to do it live. We've also done some recorded ones. And it's kind of exciting because when you give out the phone number and the phone rings, like during the show,
Right.
it's pretty wild. So I've taken my radio experience, Tom, and I moved it into podcasting, video podcasting. So we do a process called They Ask You Answer. Marcus Sheridan wrote this book. So back in around 2008, 2009, during the banking financial crisis where the real estate market in North America pretty much crumbled,
Yeah.
his swimming pool company was having issues. A lot of people who had given his pool company a deposit wanted to cancel their orders and get their money back because they were worried about losing their job. And so Marcus, who wrote this book, started scrambling and he started experimenting with blogs and with videos. And he came up with this system called They Ask You Answer, which is where you, the homeowner, have a question, like a frequently asked question, and the home service professional, the contractor, answers that question. So we use that in the formula of these video podcasts. So, for instance, when someone goes to a plumber's website who works with us, instead of an FAQ page that has all this text on it, Tom, it has these videos embedded. Okay. And so if it's a plumber, the question might be, what's the difference between a tank and a tankless water heater? Typical frequently asked question. Well, guess what? You get me asking the owner of that plumbing company that question and the owner answering it for the homeowner, question after question after question. What does it do? It allows the homeowner to get to know, like, and trust you.
Right.
So when they make a decision, they're going to make it with you because your competition doesn't have that. And people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And they're going to know you because they can see you. Just like when you and I did radio, they knew you, Tom. Tom, when you went out to the house after they listened to you on the radio, you were like a celebrity, weren't you?
Yeah. It's like I always said, it's like they roll out the red carpet. So the more that they can see and the more they're familiar with you, the better off it is. So even in like in sales training and stuff, I'm like, maybe they've seen you on the radio or a podcast. You called the day before to confirm the appointment. You called when you were on the way. Then you rang the doorbell. You've already talked to this customer like 4 times. We're already friends. That's kind of the idea. And that's why I love what you're doing with the podcast thing, because it's teeing up the salesperson for success. So that kind of leads to my next question. So I wrote a book. When can you do it? You wrote the forward in that book.
Love
There's
the book.
And then you also wrote a small book, The Radio Pitchman. Do you have that? Yes. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So your background in radio has really, maybe radio is not as big as it once was, but now video podcasts are huge, and most people don't know how to use it. Like it's like a Fugazi, like, what is this thing? I don't know what to do with it. And then I think that's where you come in and do this very well. That's at least that's how I see it. So what are your thoughts and what would you say to that?
Sure. So 40 years ago, and when I say this, it just blows my mind, but 40 years ago, I started my radio career. 40 years
You
ago.
were just a baby then, right?
I was.
You can't be more than 40, 45 years old. You look young.
Yeah, I'm a little older than that. I was 18 years old. I was in college. My freshman year, I started in radio. Started at the campus radio station as a DJ. Used to spin tunes from Cyndi Lauper and from The Boss and from Elton John and Billy Joel and all those great 80s artists. And I became the sales manager, the business manager, and ultimately the general manager, and ran the entire station. So not only did I do work on air, but I understood the radio business over the 4-year career in college. And since then, I've been refining my skills in communicating, in basically pitching. So I call myself the radio pitchman. And what a pitchman is basically a salesman. And we've seen them all the time, most notably on infomercials. Okay, like Ron Popeil. Okay, someone who can sell stuff, blenders and shredders and peelers and whatever, all vacuum cleaners, OxyClean, like Billy Mays, right?
Yeah, the black beard, and you've seen him. Yes.
Yeah. Billy Mays was the ultimate pitchman. So when you and I were selling attic insulation and solar attic fans on the radio, my job was to help pitch you and the product to the listener. And then when you went out, it was pretty much already sold. And the homeowner said, when can you do it? It was a system. And we didn't even know in the beginning, years ago when you and I did this, we didn't know we were building a system.
We didn't know that was a system.
We know what we were doing.
And then we would do this every week. So every Wednesday we would go to the radio station. I remember 1:00 we'd meet at the so we're doing this thing live. Sometimes I'm coming in there at 12:58. You're like, is he coming?
Yeah.
Holy cow, we're getting ready to go live. And then I would come. I always made it. I was always there. And then like, oh my gosh, and when we'd start, but we didn't really know what was happening. All we knew is that when we did this, the phone would ring. And then you were like, how are the sales? I'm like, I'm closing like everything. Like I'm getting Google leads and we're closing 30-40% of those. And I go with radio leads, I'm closing like 90%. It's like almost everything gets closed. It was incredible because people were kind of hearing what we were doing. They were more comfortable. And I think that's what led to what you're doing with the podcast. And I love how you have everything, I call it almost like archived. So you have all of those questions that the customer may ask. And they see it and they're like, oh, let me click on that. And then now the owner or somebody that's well-spoken from the company can get on there and the customer gets a much better feel. Like you're saying, like, you see frequently asked questions. That's always just typed out. Nobody wants to look at all that. It really starts to set the tone for the sales process, the company. the customer, it opens up the customer's mind to maybe they have a bigger budget because, like, you know what? I kind of want to, I'll deal with this company. I don't care if it's a little bit more expensive. I want it done right the first time. I had it when I was younger. This is how my thought process worked, and I know now I realize it was way off. When I had my first couple service businesses, I thought, if I do like black and white flyers and real cheap looking stuff,
Mhm.
the customers will like that. And you know what I was drawing in? The cheap customers,
Low end, low end.
low end customers.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And then I started doing like full color things and better, well put together stuff. And I started getting better customers. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought that wasn't going to work. I was completely wrong. Like,
Yeah.
okay, you know what? We need to wrap the trucks full graphic. Okay, well, that's a no-brainer. And then like doing the radios, like, well, most people are like, well, you're going to come across like a sales company or you're too big. Most customers, that's what they want. They want a real company. They don't want Chuck in a truck. They know Chuck in a truck doesn't have any money in his pockets. If something goes wrong, we have a mutual friend, and he told us, he says, like, Tom, Jim, no matter what happens to a customer's house, we have the capability in the pockets to fix it. We could rebuild the entire home if we screwed it up bad
Yep.
enough. Where Chuck in a truck, he gets another cell phone. All he's got to do is get a couple $100. That's all he
Yep.
needs. That's his insurance policy. I just need to get another phone and another phone number. That's not but consumers today are pretty savvy and they
Oh
know
yeah.
that. And I think that's why what you're doing, the way you're archiving that and really setting those contractors apart, it's huge. And then how you can place it. Talk about that, like kind of with SEO, like where could you place the videos? Like I
Yeah.
know you have like different places you put it. They can put them on their website, and kind of talk about that. Where all the places you can go and kind of the benefits of what you're doing. Because even sometimes I'm not clear, and then you start going through it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize all the benefits there are really to doing this.
Yeah, that's a great question because when someone's interested in what we do, I have to explain it. It's not complicated, but it's very wide. So we've got the videos and we put them on podcast platforms like Amazon Podcasts and Apple Podcasts and iHeartRadio. And there's literally dozens of podcast sites that this goes out to.
And you guys, you do all that, right? Like
We
the
do it
contractor
all.
does, you do it
We
all,
do it all.
turnkey.
Yeah. So it only takes the home service professional, the contractor, the owner of the company, 45 minutes to an hour once per quarter to record the content, and our team does everything else. So once we record it, we edit it and we put it on their social media time. So we put it on their Facebook and we put in a small reel. Every week we do a reel. Then we do the long form that goes on once a month to a podcast site that we build just for them. It's like a website, like their original website, but a second one just designed specifically for podcasts. And then we put it on Audible and Spotify and Apple and Amazon. We go down the list and we put backlinks back to their main website from Amazon, from Apple,
Okay.
from iHeart, from all these big companies, which helps their SEO. So we've got an SEO component. We've got a social media component because we're putting it on their Facebook. It goes on YouTube, and the contractor can use it any way they want. They could have a link in their signature on their email that says, click here to watch our podcast. Click here to watch
Oh,
us on the Checker Pro radio show. Click here to learn more about this. And we do archive these. We catalog them in a library. And we embed these on the website of the plumber, the roofer, the landscaper, HVAC guy, electrician, whatever industry they're in, we can embed this onto their website as well. So you've got videos, you've got podcasts, you've got SEO, you've got social media. Everyone understands all of those, but they've never seen it packaged together. So people can go to an agency and have SEO done, but the SEO company probably doesn't do video, especially from a radio show.
no.
Okay. The SEO company may not place things on social media. A social media company doesn't do SEO. We do all of it, and we've got a great team. They're just amazing at what they do. I don't know fully how all that's executed. I understand the benefit of it. I just have the best people doing that. What I tend to spend most of my time doing is this type of thing, getting on a call. We do
Yeah.
this over Zoom, we record it, It's under the guise of the Checker Pro radio show. I'm the host. I've been doing this for years, hosting a home improvement show with a contractor like you, Tom.
Yep.
And I'm asking you these frequently asked questions. The They Ask You Answer program. Very simple. What's the difference between a tank and a tankless? Okay. What are the differences in rollers for my garage door? Because there's at least 3 different types of rollers, or garage door openers. You can go down the list of these frequently asked questions. So when people are at home with their spouse on their iPad, their iPhone, or on their computer, sitting on the couch, and they're thinking of getting new garage doors, a new HVAC system, today, people want to be educated, Tom, before they call or fill out that form. What better way than to be talking to them in advance? They get to know, like, and trust you. They're then going to fill out that form or call you, and they now know you, your company culture, the product, maybe even what it costs.
Right.
And they're a ready buyer, and all they're going to ask you when you show up is, when can you do it? Because at least 85 to 90% of their questions have been answered ahead of time, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, that's what I found too when we were doing the radio and things, and then it's very similar to this. So when you got to the customer's house, they already decided they were going to use you.
Yeah.
You would have to go out there and be so bad and really screw this thing up because they've already watched everything. They already know what they want. They're placing their order with you, and their order is usually better. Like, go towards the premium product, like the garage door rollers. Like, well, let's go with the nylon rollers, or let's go with the upgraded spring. Or like, you know what? I didn't even know there was so much involved in garage door openers. I didn't know you could get one with a camera on it and one that's belt driven and a super quiet or whatever. I'm not a garage door guy. I don't know all the different ones, but if I was going to be getting new garage door openers and I had somebody sent me this, I'd be looking through it like, you know what, Danny, that's my wife. Like, why don't we just go with the good one?
Yeah.
Like, you would just sell yourself. And she was like, okay, let's just get that one, whatever that is. I mean, don't really care about the price so much. Contractors, I find, that get caught up in it's all about price. Those are not those contractors. They don't last. It's like Spirit Airlines. It's all about price, and we see where they're at today. Like,
Yeah.
that price does not work. You cannot be don't want to be the low price leader. That's the thing. So one other thing I was thinking about. So what I feel is really strong with what you're doing is with the Checo Pro branding and kind of that third party
Yeah.
endorsement. So contractors, to me, they can all day long tell everybody how great they are. But when you have a third party that doesn't have to say you're great, and they're saying that you're great and you're one of the best, and then they can see it.
Yeah.
To me, the videos and stuff where they can actually see that makes a big difference. So kind of talk about maybe some of the contractors that have gone with that contractor with the Checker Pro brand and how that really they use that as a tool. I used to use it every customer's
Sure.
house.
Sure. And
Even if
it's
they didn't
smart.
even know what Checker Pro was, I would tell them what it was, and like, it's for the elite, the best of the best contractors, and we're lucky to be part of this organization. And they're like, oh wow, I didn't know that. And then, hey, do you have an electrician? And then they start opening up, because then it was easy to close them. Use that as a tool. So
Yeah. So 20 years ago, I started Checker Pro, and Checker Pro simply is like an Angie's List, and a BBB. So we pre-qualify all the contractors that are in our network. We check insurance, licenses, and references on all the companies, and have been doing that since 2005. So almost 20 years we've been
right.
running that model. It's only been in recent years that we've added these other features of direct response radio, and now really the video podcast, because technology 20 years ago didn't allow for this. There weren't smartphones back then. People were using
No,
laptops and desktops for the most part for communication outside their home. They may have had a flip phone, but they didn't have a smartphone. And so things have changed today. And YouTube wasn't what it was, and
no.
Facebook didn't really exist. It was a totally different world. And so Checker Pro over the decades has been this safe place for a homeowner to go to, because they've been checked out by a third party, which is, us at Checker Pro. So that's a great point. Beyond the fact that you have credibility being on a video podcast, being interviewed by me, you've got that membership at Checker Pro. And it's just one more thing that sets you apart from the average contractor. much like someone might join the BBB, I believe we're way better than the Better Business Bureau. They cut corners and cheat on some things.
Yeah.
They're not quite the same, but a lot of homeowners believe in third parties vouching for the contractor. When I started my business, the number one reason I started it was people didn't trust contractors. Here I am, a homeowner 20 years ago, getting screwed over by contractors, and I decide to start something that I can control. I can control it, and I can help my neighbors
Right.
find the best contractors. And that was the genesis of Checkapro. And it's now evolved into these great things we can do with digital media to help the contractor more.
Yeah, I think that's gotten more nationwide. So do you do more like nationwide, or is it only in the Houston, Texas area, or do you go outside of that scope of
All
that
over the
area?
country now.
Network?
So honestly,
Okay.
we have more pre-qualified home service providers that are part of the Checkapro network outside of Texas. So when I started back in '05, it was all in Houston. And things have just changed. And so I've always had contractors from other markets saying, when's Checker Pro coming to our town? And the way it was designed, it wasn't easily replicated. It was really kind of a local home base thing. We've adjusted the model over the years now and have incorporated these digital assets, the video, the podcasting, the backlinks, social media. And now we have contractors in most states, California, Florida, Kentucky, all over the place. And it makes it interesting though, too, because we just had Texas before, really Houston. And
Right.
now we're getting this mix of contractors from across the country, which is a little trickier too, because all cities, states, and sometimes counties have different rules, regulations, and laws.
Right.
So when we're checking out a contractor, um, what's always going to be the same, always, is they have to have a certificate of insurance, and anyone in business should have that. But there are some states, like in Texas, you don't have to have insurance to operate a handyman service. You
Right.
don't, or a roofing business. There's no law. If you're in the big services, electricians, plumbers, HVAC, if you're in pest control, irrigation, there's about 5 to 7 that are licensed. You're required to have a license to be operating legitimately in the state of Texas.
Right.
Those licenses require insurance. That doesn't mean, though, there aren't HVAC companies and plumbers out there who aren't licensed. Therefore,
Oh, yeah.
not
Oh,
insured.
I know. So I got one more question. I was just thinking, who is your ideal contractor? Is this for a guy that's got one truck? He's the guy in the pickup truck, and he's doing $10,000 a month in sales. Is this for him, or is this more like maybe somebody's got 5 or 6 trucks doing 5, 6, $8 million a year? Like what
Yep.
do we? Who is this for? So people, if they're watching this, maybe kind of get a thought process of, is this for me or not?
Yeah. So we're in the business of helping winning companies win more. So it depends. So if a company's been in business for 30 years and they're only doing $350,000 a year, they're not
Oh,
going to be doing $3 million in 2 years. Okay.
no, they're
They're
going to be
just not.
stuck
They
in
have
their
no
ways, I
history.
think.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, if you've been in business for 6 months and you're going to do 800,000 this year and you say you're going to do 1.6 next year, yeah, we'll talk to you. Okay.
Okay.
Or if you're a
Yep.
business doing over $3 million, definitely. The best
Okay.
fit is a company that's winning and wants to win more. They're already getting good leads. They have great systems. They're building their business and they want to throw the right fuel on it. The right fuel today is to glue all this together, make that flame bigger, is to grow your authority and credibility through video podcasts. It's that simple. Now, if you're small, put all your money toward leads. However, you can get a lead. Okay. If you're a little guy, just throw your money toward leads. if you want to grow and build your brand and your authority and credibility, you must start doing videos, whether you do it with us or not. And you should consider doing podcasts. It's just a smart thing because you can communicate with your potential buyer. It makes all the sense in the world. And it's not expensive to do it. It's way less expensive than TV advertising, a lot less expensive than radio. You know what radio costs.
Yeah.
And the credibility is the same. In some cases, even more, because when you and I did radio, Tom, it was great because they could hear you and I, but they couldn't see you. We've all heard that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And when they said picture, that was before video played. So a picture, which is static, if that's worth 1,000 words, what is a 5-minute video worth?
The video.
Trillions?
Yes. No, I know. I think the video is amazing. So you touched on it earlier, like doing the Facebook. We put the Facebook pieces and stuff in there. And you know me, I used to, I don't get on that Facebook and stuff. And here again, you kind of talked me into. I started doing some Facebook videos, and I'm like, oh my gosh, these things work. I did one, and like I'm getting all kinds of response.
Yeah.
People actually calling at a depot, tell me more about your solar ventilation. When is the next training? These kind of things. So I really do believe in the videos, and I think that what you've done, and I would probably say, it sounds like maybe people could do this themselves, but they're not going to have the third party endorsement. They're not going to be everywhere that they need to be. The SEO is not going to be done. And they're just, and you know what I think happens? They don't get any of it done. It becomes a dream that never happens. Believe me. I mean, you know me, how many times this happened and how many business owners, or I bet you have had, you probably can't count them on your fingers and your toes of people say, I'm going to do this myself. And 2 months later, Jim, can you help me? I want to go ahead and get this done. I couldn't get it done. I'm sure this happens. I mean, do you have any stories on something like that? I mean, I just would love to hear some of these people that do this.
Well, there's a stat, and you can look it up. You can go to Google, look it up. 90% of all podcasts fail, meaning they cease doing that podcast, 90% after 3 episodes.
That's if they even get the first episode done.
Yeah, those are the ones who start.
You see what I'm saying? This is not a DIY project. This is like putting a roof on your house. Yes, you could go get the shingles and tear the roof off. Is that really what you're going to do? No. And you can talk about that for 10 years, and the next thing you know, that roof is leaking and the whole house is falling down. Yeah. It's not going to happen. And to me, in business, you want to partner up with people that can really help you, and then like have a great accountant, have a great lawyer, have a great somebody who can do the podcast, have somebody that can build amazing websites, like all of these different things that you have in your business. It's much better because believe me, if you're a great AC technician or you're good with people or whatever it is, you're not going to do what Jim can do. I guarantee it. If you guys, anybody's watching this, like at least call out, what is the kind of the program? Where do we start? If somebody wanted to get started with this and say, hey, I think I'm interested. Where do I start, or what should I do? I kind of want to maybe dabble with it, or can I see some more? Like, I'm not quite clear. Like, what do they do? What's their next step?
Well, there's just tons of content. So if you want to learn more about me and what we do, you just go to Google and type in Jim Klauck. My name's here up on the screen. So Jim Klauck, it's easy. And everywhere out there online, you can learn more about what we do. You can send me an email, jim@theradiopitchman.com, jim@theradiopitchman.com. And it's that simple. I'll get back to you. We can set up a meeting, hop on Zoom, and I'll show you what we do. And it's just what you need to do. So let me tell you something. Years ago, and you're a little younger than me, but I think you'll be able to relate to most of the story. Years ago in business, everybody had a telephone for the past 100+ years. Okay. Right. When the fax machine came in, and that was before the internet. So when the fax machine came in, everyone had to have a fax machine because you had to send orders that way or confirmations and so forth. And so if you didn't have a fax machine, people looked at you like you were crazy. So you had to get one. And then the internet came in. And if you didn't have an email, they're like, you're crazy. You have to have an email. We have to email you stuff. Snail mail's going out. We need to email you. And then if you're a small business owner, you had to get a website. You don't have a website, you're not legit. And remember when everyone had to get a website to be legit? You had to get a website.
Yes. And boy, there were some bad ones out there.
Exactly.
Not many people had great ones, but a lot of people try to do it. I guess that's my point. A lot of people try to do it themselves, and almost hurt themselves because it was so bad.
Exactly. So they had to get a website. And then when smartphones came in, you had to get a smartphone and start using apps. So now everyone has a smartphone and uses apps, whether they have a business or not. Okay. And now today, if you're not doing videos and even going a step further to doing podcasts, which we make it really easy because we do all the work for you, then
Right.
you are the guy without the fax machine. You're the guy without the email. You're the guy without the website. You're the guy without the smartphone. It's going to catch up with you. And I have all kinds of clients who are on board with this moving forward. I talk to people all day long saying, yeah, I know, I see this coming. Well, it's not coming, it's here. And if you're not
It's
doing it,
here.
your
Yeah.
competition is going to beat you at it. And it's just something else. We hear about AI. Um, that's coming in many different directions. And that's something we're going to have to incorporate into our businesses one way or the other. And by the way, we use a lot of AI in the videos and the podcast, which is great. It really helps us optimize things. And Google loves the AI because when we produce the videos and the podcast with AI, Google sees it different than if we don't use AI. It's magic. It's like a
Oh,
secret
okay.
pixie dust. It's
Right.
wild stuff. And it's just, it's just the way to go. Luckily, I stay very busy. There are more contractors in the United States of America than our company could possibly service. I mean, just
Oh, yeah. This
it's just crazy.
contractors, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands or maybe
There's
a million
millions,
contractors,
literally
millions.
millions
It's
of all
crazy.
sizes, of all
Yes.
sizes. And for the most part, we work with small to medium size. We have some large ones. A1 Garage Door, Tommy Mello's company. That's a
Yep.
$250 million service company. That'd be considered very large in home service. He was one of our first member clients with the podcast. He's actually the one who pushed me into video. So when we started, we were doing audio. Remember, I'm a radio guy, Tom. So
Right.
so when Tommy and I first started doing the A1 Garage Door podcast for the homeowner, it was an audio podcast like a lot of people are used to, like a radio show. I'll never forget the day I was sitting here in this studio. Well, I wasn't doing a lot of Zoom back then because I wasn't doing video. And he calls me. I said, Tommy, what's up? He said, Jim, we're going to video. I said, what do you mean we're going to video? No longer doing the audio podcast. We're going to video. And I'm thinking, well, this is my business, not yours. You're a client of mine. He said, Jim, did you hear me? We're going video. So
Right. Right. But he was right. I remember
he was
when
right.
you,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you called me that afternoon and it was like, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, video. Yeah, of course you
Yeah.
have the audio. So we go audio and video.
Yeah.
But
So,
then I
so
think when the way you've kind of put this together with the SEO and then all the places it goes,
yeah.
I think that's why Tommy was excited. Then when you put that with some video, like, oh my
Oh,
gosh,
yeah.
this
Yeah.
is secret sauce. And then of
Yeah.
course now the rest has been history. You really put something to me,
Yeah.
something special together. And you already had the branding, you already had the radio personality and actually able to, and I think that's the biggest thing is people, if you think about doing it yourself, it's not going to work.
Oh, no.
It's not going to
Yeah.
be the same. Yeah, you might save a few bucks, but it's going to hurt you in the long run. You're going to, at the end of the day, it's going to cost you money. This is going to make you money. I mean, that's the idea. That's all these little tools we use in business. Certain things like, oh, I don't want to buy that book. That book's $25. I don't want to buy Thomas' book on
Yeah.
Amazon. When can you do it? You can buy my book on Amazon. Some people, I mean, we sell lots of them there, and people that get them, they love them. But some people, are like, oh, I want to spend $20 and buy a book. I don't want to read. I don't want to spend 2 hours reading a book. Like, Jesus, like this. Okay, just like this, just do it. Let Jim do it, and he'll get you taken care of. And the rest, I guarantee, for me, this is what happened. The rest is history. It just makes a huge difference to partner up with the right people. So,
Interesting you say
that's
that
my
because,
endorsement. I
yeah.
mean, for you, because I don't know, people don't know us or something, but I mean, if you knew
Yeah.
our background and you really sat there and looked at this, and we opened up and showed you everything that we've done and how
Yeah.
you do things, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is genius. This is magical. Like, well, it's available. Just do it. It's
I know.
easy.
Just
You'll make it easy for them.
So it's interesting you brought all that up because in my book on page 39, a chapter starts called The DIY Kind of Guy. And the reason why I put this in my book is almost every contractor knows that homeowner that says, I got your quote, don't worry about it. I'm going to repair my own garage door. I'm going to
Yeah.
fix my own roof. I'll install that solar attic fan myself. So thanks anyway. Well, that's kind of how I feel. I'm the expert here. Okay. I'm like the garage door technician or the HVAC guy. I know how to do it right the first time. If you want to go ahead and do this on your own, you can, but it'd be a lot easier if you let the expert do what they do. It's kind of like the dentist. I'm not going to drill my own teeth for goodness sakes.
No,
Okay.
let the experts do what they do. Like I said, you'll find that in business. If you let the experts do what they do, you do what you do in your business. If you're in the garage door business, you're great running a business and being the technician and training your guys and marketing and all that. But let somebody that specializes in this kind of thing do that.
Yep.
You know, you're not your own lawyer. If you go to court, you shouldn't be in there by yourself. I mean,
Should
like
not.
you could, and you can go without a lawyer. You can go do it yourself. I wouldn't recommend it.
No,
You
they're
can go
called
sit in
fools.
front of maybe IRS and say we've got some tax problems, and I'm gonna handle it on my own. Well, that's what got you in the problem. That's why you're
Yep.
where you're at right now. You know, I like the idea of like people working on like their own garage door and stuff, and you know they only got 3 fingers or something. Like, oh, you work on
Oh,
your own garage doors? Where's all your fingers? Oh
yeah.
yeah, I do all my own
Yeah.
stuff. Well, that's probably why you got these problems. Same thing here. Let this.
Yep.
I don't harp on that, but I mean, I just tell everybody that's if you're listening, get with Jim and just do it. I mean, is there like a 10-year commitment to this? Like, what is like, how bad could it be if this thing, say I'm a contractor, I'll play devil's
Yeah.
advocate, and I wanted to do this. Like, am I going to go bankrupt if I do this? And I think, well, maybe if it doesn't work, am I going bankrupt?
Well, no,
I'm
I won't let you
it's
because
probably
one of the
no.
questions I'm going to ask you is how much annual volume do you do? How many trucks do you have? How many employees do you have? With my
Okay.
experience, I can tell, especially with how many years you've been in business, if you can afford it or not. And if you say a low number, I'll say, we're not right for you. But if you give me the right numbers, I'll be like, we are right for you. And this is why it's going to work. And
Always give them the yeah,
yeah,
always the why. Like this is why it's going to work.
yep,
So yeah, I think, and you're like me, like we stay plenty busy. Of course, we'd like to have more business, but if it's not the right fit for somebody, I'm the first one to say, and I know you're the same way.
yeah,
You've given me all kinds of advice that actually probably hurt you and helped me, but it was good for me. And you're like, Tom, I think you should do this.
yeah.
I'll make less money, but you know what? It's better for you. And I think you do that for your, I
There actually
mean,
were some
billion.
times, there were some times where I put some money aside for me because I thought it was better for you to do something different, but that's fine.
Right, right.
Um, it
Okay.
it's the best thing. And so, the ideal member client for me is someone who says, Jim, I'm really good at turning wrenches. I'm really good at selling what I sell to the homeowner. Just tell me what I need to do so I can be successful with your system. That's
Right.
because I don't want to fight with people. Okay. I don't
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
to. There's way too many fish out in the ocean. And I've been around for many, many decades. I'm at the point in my life where I'm like, I don't need this. Like, I don't need
Right.
to be
Because
arguing with someone about something.
yeah, you're genuinely trying to help them. So
Yeah.
if you're trying to help them and then they just keep getting up in their own way, then maybe that's not the right fit.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell people, I said, well, maybe we're not the right fit for you, like whatever I'm doing. And they're like, maybe we're not. You know what? We can move apart. That's fine. We'll still be friends. I mean, that's it. It's all
Exactly.
about relationships. And I will say, as far as vendors or anything I've ever had to deal with, you're always been the easiest one. Well, we've been together for 15 years. So we always seem to work it out. It's always like, because you always have the other person's best interest at heart. So I think
Yeah.
people, if they're watching this, like, you know what, I'm not going to get sunk on this thing. Let me try it. And I think the success rate is probably close to 100%. Nothing's 100%. Some people, they just don't utilize it, or maybe you can't even get them on there to do the Zoom calls or whatever. But if they'll just do a little bit of effort, you'll take the ball and run for with it and make it work.
If they follow the system, the process, trust the process,
That's the
just follow
process.
it. So the worst case scenario is if you only use the videos. Let's say that no one ever watched a podcast, which is not possible because it's on Apple and Amazon, it's everywhere.
You're
But
right. That's
but
not
let's say
right.
no one watched that. If you just took the video content of me interviewing you, the contractor, and you use that daily to help close opportunities. So picture this. You are the small business owner contractor, or you have a technician or a salesperson in the field. And so let's say it's for HVAC, and you are one of four companies bidding on two systems, a 3-ton and a 5-ton for a home.
Okay.
Okay. So everything's lining up. You're almost all the same. Pricing's comparable, the experience, the BBB, the Google reviews, whatever. I'm pretty sure that your competition doesn't have a radio show interview with me talking to you where that technician or salesperson or you can pull up on your phone and say, you know what? We talked about installing systems like this on a recent radio podcast with Jim Klauck, Checker Pro Joe. Can we bring this up or can I email that to you or text it to
Right.
you?
Right.
That alone sets you apart, gives you authority and credibility, and will put you over the top.
Yeah, and I think if you just closed one or two more deals a year, in a lot of cases that would just pay for everything. It's like
Of
this is
course.
not expensive. I mean, I know what the pricing is. It's ridiculous. I'm not gonna go over on here because people need to reach out to you, but
Yeah.
it's so reasonable. It's ridiculous. I mean, this is not like a big deal. This is not like some of these other things that you see where, oh, we need $25,000 up front, and then it's going to be
Oh,
$28,000 a
no.
month for the six from, and it's like all this money, and it's like, what? That's scary. And I'm like, even something like that may actually still be worth doing. But I know this is like, if you want to do it, this is super
Yeah.
affordable. And almost anybody can really just do it. But like you're saying, I think it's just to take the leads that you're already getting and really establish yourself as more credible, and you will close more of the leads you've already got. So a lot of times I've had people tell me, they'll call me, Tom, I need more leads. How do I get more leads? I'm
Oh
like, what's
gosh.
your closing rate? 20%.
You don't
You
need
don't need
more
more leads.
leads. You
You need
need
to
to
close the deals you got.
nail it down.
What if we could close 60%? I just tripled your business and you don't have to spend any more money for leads. Let's do
Exactly.
some training on some sales training or something. That's what you need. And that's where this comes in. So even if your salespeople that are going out aren't quite as good as maybe they could be or as polished as they could be, I can help them with that, but that's not why I'm here. But Jim can help you set the tone so the customer isn't giving them so many objections. They already want to use you. That's the idea of this. You can have weaker people, but they're already going to want to use you. Yes. So,
That's all you want to do. The homeowner is going to ask, when can you do it? When they are educated. It is that simple. It is not that difficult. If people could only figure it out, I like to shake people and say, all you have to do is talk to them in simple terms, answer their questions, be human, and you're way ahead of the others.
you don't have to overthink it. Just be genuine, go in there. And when you've got like this podcast and you've got good reviews and you've got some lead source and you do good work, you're going to have a very successful business. This is just one extra thing that's really going to set yourself apart from your competition. That's the biggest thing that I see. And it does do that. That's the idea of it. So
Yep. Tom, thanks
sure.
so much. I appreciate talking to you today. It's been awesome.
It's been awesome. I enjoyed it. Thanks. Talk to you.